Just as we thought Berserk's panels could not get any more depressing than what they have already been these last couple chapters, we get chapter 373, which shows how deep Guts' mental state has plummeted after Elfhelm's incident and the taking of Casca. I would like to hear your thoughts on this chapter, maybe even rating it on a scale of sadness perhaps, as well as any predictions or concerns for the story. Without further ado, let's get started with chapter 373. This chapter shifts focus from Falconia with characters such as Casca, Griffith, and Zod from previous chapter to Guts' crew sailing away from Elfhelm. The first character we see is Isidro, who is having a conversation with Serpico, where Serpico clearly explains the aftermath and end result of the destruction of Elfhelm. He explains that the destruction of the Great Spirit Tree has caused the witches to not only lose their home, but also their power. We previously saw how the magical beings from Elfhelm vanished, as their souls were not supported by the tree anymore, and for the humans trained in the art of magic, they are gradually losing their power. It is interesting that Puck, even though he originates from Elfhelm, he did not disappear. The same situation concerns Ivalera. She did not come from Elfhelm specifically, yet Elfhelm seems to have been one of the most relevant or even the biggest magical place to exist. Maybe this hints at a dependency to the tree which Puck and Ivalera have detached from by living outside of the island for too long. They have probably been using a different life force to live from, contrary to the ones who vanished when Elfhelm got destroyed. Serpico also mentions Schierke's plan to perform a magic rite to locate Casca, so perhaps Schierke is also not affected as the other mages from the island. It seems that magic and magical beings are not totally dependent on Elfhelm's energy. After all, Schierke and her master could perform very powerful spells outside of Elfhelm. We already know everything is connected by the spiritual realm that is present at any place. In the case of Elfhelm, there was a stronger life force due to the spirits inside the island, and interestingly, the world tree is also strongly related to the astral realm and souls, so there could still be hope for magical creatures to come back, as well as the use of magic for those whose power is diminishing. Focusing on Isidro, he interrupts Serpico with a look on his face that appears to be a sign that he has lost hope. He doesn't care anymore, he has lost motivation. After all, Isidro's most impactful moment happened during the island's tragedy. He lost Isma and saw gods lose hope right in front of him, as well as witness all the magical creatures that represent good be wiped out by an evil force. It is easy as readers to compare everyone's tragedies with Guts' life and think their struggle doesn't come close to his, so they must not feel down, yet what everyone has undergone during Elfhelm was still sorrowful. Luckily, Serpico lightens up the mood by suggesting to just have faith and trust Schierke. We then see Schierke beginning the rite, trusting Farnese to take care of her physical body while she performs it. The crew is told to center their attention in one place to contribute, and from the faces among the crowd, Magnifico can be seen, and I must say I am glad that the studio still stays close to how Kentaro Miura used to write side characters. In this case, Magnifico is always a comedic relief and always has something to say. Him referring to the rite as dark magic and Farnese silencing him and calling him esteemed brother didn't feel out of place despite the sad state the story is at. This great panel of Schierke surrounded by candles is presented, and personally I really like the chosen perspective to draw this scene, and it reminds me of the double spreads Kentaro Miura used to draw involving Schierke. Schierke successfully switches to her astral body and witnesses the dragon's path from the wall tree. She's amazed at the power, or as she refers it to as Or, gathered at a single point, the wall tree. By her words, Schierke is determined to find Casca. And after this, we get back to the most depressing part of Berserk, seeing Guts suffer once again. Guts is still locked in that room, having a mental breakdown. We see him sweating and suddenly a black shadow emerges from the Dragon Slayer. The beast of darkness presents itself, laughing at Guts and his pitiful state. The beast sits on top of Guts' sword with its chains broken on the sides. The beast's appearance does seem to be less strong than what we have previously seen, yet its stare and angry look, yearning for power and Guts' despair is still there. Its rage is still as potent as ever, reminding Guts of the power he deeply desires. Guts rapidly takes his sword and slashes the beast in front of him with rage, only to be reminded of Griffith as he finishes his swing and it lands on the ground. This scene is a clear callback to Guts' and Griffith's confrontation back in the Golden Age arc when they first met. It was probably intentionally shown by the Beast of Darkness, yet everything the Beast shows comes from Guts' mind after all. The Beast is Guts' deep self, the one with rage, hate, anger, despair, sadness, trauma, and desire for revenge. This moment clearly shows Guts how powerless he is against Griffith. Just as it was back then, where it seemed like Griffith was levels above Guts, currently he is at the same stage. Nothing has changed. The only thing back then that gave Guts the upper hand was rage, violence, and his wild ways of dealing with things. No rationality, only violence and rage. And that exactly is what the Beast is persuading Guts into doing. Let yourself go, forget about everything, and only let your deepest, most instinctive feelings act by themselves. Become a beast. Become the beast hidden within you. Just release it. I loved this panel. They added the perfect callback at the perfect time. The only issue I have, which could be just me nitpicking, was the exclamation mark added over it. It's just a small detail, but once you see it, it is difficult to not notice. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it ruined the panel, but I would have preferred for it not to be there. Maybe it's just me. Let me know in the comments if anyone has a similar feeling though. Guts at last looks at Griffith and sees the same repulsive stare. The stare that has been haunting him ever since the eclipse. One that represents injustice, betrayal. The stare that locks onto him on every encounter with Griffith. A stare present in the eclipse, Black Swordsman arc, Conviction arc, and the current destruction of Elfhelm that led to Casca's abduction. A stare that also indicates Guts the reality that he is powerless. Guts vomits and again enters in a state of shock, plummeting to the ground. And interestingly, the Beast of Darkness, as it stands in front of Guts, seems really small. Every time it takes over, it seems to be huge and strong. Even in this chapter, it is shown menacingly and with great size. Yet, this is all in Guts' mind. The Beast hurts Guts more than anyone else. It is a very good way of symbolizing how we as humans have our most intense battles with ourselves and our inner thoughts. The Beast then reminds Guts of his brand and human flesh that prevent him from accomplishing his objectives. The only way is to accept the Beast, just as during all those battles against apostles, God-hand members, and being persecuted by demons and evil spirits, his human body is no rival to the evil of this world, and his branded soul also impedes him from ever being free from evil, or facing evil. It seems he is out of options in this cruel world. Now, what's left is to give in to the Beast of Darkness, striving for power. And just when we thought it couldn't get worse, the Kushan army strikes the crew and enters the boat. They seem to outnumber the boat crew. We see Farnese still holding Schierke with a worried look on her face as the Kushan surround them, only for the last panel to show some troops entering Guts' room. With the caption, "Trapped both body and soul, what fate awaits the party?" And let me say, this specific panel beats all the previous ones in emotional impact and art, which should be a good thing, yet it makes me question if the studio have a sadder panel up their sleeves in the upcoming chapters. What more will Guts go through on the future? I guess we will have to wait indefinitely, as they did not announce a date for the next release. This last panel seems to hint at Guts probably going berserk against the Kushan soldiers, but it is not certain. It could also be that Guts will simply be unconscious for some time. I hope the Kushan have a reasonable leader though, that can work things out with Roderick for the best of both parties. After all, they now have a common enemy. This also opens up the possibility of the Kushan army to lead Guts' crew to meet Rickard's party, since Rickard is currently traveling to the Bakiraka hidden village with Silad, the Tapasa and Daiba. Perhaps these Kushans are also heading that way, and maybe the east, which was referred to on the previous chapter to where Griffith is planning to go, is right there. If so, it seems to be shaping up to be a big battle on the near future with Guts and Rickard reunited. The only problem is Guts right now. If he loses control, he might have to part ways from his friends. The invasion of the Kushan really have set the stakes high for the situation. It is a very chaotic but interesting one if we analyze the situation a little. First, Shierke is not present and needs to be protected while the invasion is taking place to avoid death. Second, Guts is out of the frame either by staying unconscious or going berserk with the armor. And third, the mages have lost their power. All is left are Serpico, Isidro and Roderick against a whole army. I think if Guts doesn't go crazy, everyone will eventually get captured and will probably travel willingly or by force to the hidden village where Rickard is going to be at with his crew. If a fight breaks out, I will love seeing a Farnese and Morda duo battle. If not now, I just hope it happens before the manga ends. It would definitely be cool to see both of them in action. But that is just a personal desire. Not very likely to cure like that exactly, to be honest. Other than that, I think the next chapter will continue where it left off instead of switching perspective due to the sudden Kushan attack, but we could also see Rickard as I have been waiting ever since the continuation, as I have speculated many times in previous videos. We could also get a glimpse at Zod's situation regarding the hint of betrayal or at least some doubt towards Griffith from chapter 372. There are definitely a lot of plot points that the new chapters from Studio Gaga's continuation have set in motion. The pacing is great and it is exciting to think of all the different ways and paths the story might go in the upcoming chapters. We have a lot of possibilities, such as a Sonia and Casca interaction, Rickard's crew chapter, Guts and the Beast of Darkness, Schierke traveling on the astral realm towards the tree, and now the Kushan army invading. But let's just say that the chapters are becoming more and more unpredictable, as the studio seems to have planned the story more ever since the first chapter was released. Strangely, there was no title for this new arc or chapter section, so we will have to wait. Hope the wait is not too long. Until then, take care.